Sweet. We're set. What's up, guys? Welcome to the K3 podcast. Here we're kind of diving in what's going on in the Web3 space, talking about with founders, VCs, investors, and just overall trading markets. Today I'm joined with xutada. He's a big trader in the space, knows a bunch about the markets, and I just want to thank you for joining us today. So
no problem.
Of course, dude. So just tell us about your origin story, how you got into Web3, what are you interested in as well?
Alrighty, so the way I got into crypto and Web3 in general was, I'd say I got heavily into it around COVID time. I think that's when a lot of people dabble their toes inside of it. Dogecoin was popping off and NFTs and all this stuff. So it caught an interest with it when I was like 15 years old. And then from that point on, I had a bit of cash and I started investing into Dogecoin. I made a little bit of money on there. I bought some NFTs as well too. And I was, trading it off the floor price and a bunch of stuff like that. And then from that point on, I just got hooked onto crypto. I started learning more about it, why it was created, and a bunch of other things like that. And just kept going with it. And here we are.
Dude, that's awesome. So just pretty much got good bags off these crazy coins like Dogecoin, helped you out, and that kind of gave you a good foundation to keep trading on.
Yep.
What are some difficulties starting out? Every trader has their own sort of learning curve to it.
Yeah. So with me, learning how to trade for me was easy because I understood how my brain worked with picking up information and a bunch of things like that. So garnering, a nice strategy, building it, testing out the probabilities of it and everything was super easy. My main problem was the psychology aspect, which is, I think, the most important thing. I had a lot of FOMO a little bit and a bit of greed. The greed I was able to fight off relatively quickly, but FOMO was the main thing that was getting to me a lot, and it still gets to me now because us humans, we're biologically made to, experience FOMO, feel it.
Right.
Same thing with greed and all this stuff. So trading is just one of those things where you have to tap into your consciousness and fight it off consistently, but it always creeps up behind your back. So that was my main problem. And the reason why it would, creep back up is I'd have levels marked out and I'd say I know where the market is going here and there, and it react off my levels and get to my levels, but it never provided me an entry. So that would kind of piss me off a little, and the FOMO started to kick in, and then I'd force setups and look for setups that are not even there. So
Right.
That's when but what helped me a lot was journaling. Journaling is, I'd say, one of the most important things, and I think every trader should do it. Even if you get to the point where you're profitable, there's always something you do wrong with any trade. Every trade is never perfect, in my personal opinion. There's no such thing as you being perfect. There's always a flaw. So journaling was important because it helped me grab a little bit of data when the FOMO started to kick in. So then when I started trading and I started to get that feeling again, I can tap back into my consciousness and be like, oh wait, it's starting to happen again, and I could stop myself. So yeah.
No, that's true. I mean, a lot of it, any skill people will usually get good. They always have a journal that just document their whole journey. Whether if it's through a video format or just writing it out. But it also is interesting on how you outline it too. So when you go through your journal, do you go through every trade and just talk about what you learned, or is it a daily thing? What's your general outline to keep up with your journal?
So with my journal, obviously I only write in it if I took a trade for the day, or even if, let's say for instance, I didn't take a trade and I was looking at the charts all day, I'd probably still journal, but it obviously wouldn't be as much information. But the way I go about my journaling was I'd write the date down. I'd write if I made money or not, how much money I made. And then I'd have a section where I write down what I did correctly and what I did incorrectly. And then I had a little section of like what induced the feelings.
Right.
And then I wrote down affirmations under it. So let's say, for instance, I got into a trade. Let's say I made like quick $1,000. I'd write down like, I was very patient. I waited for my model to present itself. Um, I had no FOMO. There was no greed. I was very calm. Price action was doing this and that. And then there'd be other things where I did wrong, where maybe I closed out for profits a little too early for no reason, because there could have been like an outside factor that happened and it caused me to like not think correctly and just close the position early out when I really didn't need to. Um, and yeah, and then I, speak about my feelings so I understand like what induces the feeling so I can fight it off and be a bit more logical with trading and be a lot more conscious with it as well too. And then affirmations that I wrote down with is like, I am patient, I am not greedy, a bunch of stuff like that where I write it down every single day to really ingrain it in my head.
So. Like, how much of that does actually work? Like the affirmation part, do you really see the magic that comes in where you're just like, dude, I am patient?
Well, the thing with me is like I truly believe in like the law of attraction and manifestation and stuff like that. So I think obviously, for instance, let's say you're writing something down, you're like, oh, I am a millionaire, but then you're just like sitting around doing nothing. Obviously, it's not going to come to you like that. I'm obviously writing these affirmations down,
right?
But the most important things is like the feelings that induce the feelings during the trade, so that I can really like look back on it. But writing the affirmations down every day is like a reminder to myself. It's like a self-identity thing with trading, because with trading it's you against you. So it's more of a self-identity thing why I write it down every single day, to really like ingrain it in my head and so I don't forget it.
Sweet. So like, dude, it's essential being able to reflect and go back into what you're doing every day, and you're seeing your mistakes, you're seeing your wins, you're seeing your losses, instead of just moving on to the next trade. No, that's respectable. Now, are you just like a trader, like just from markets and news? Do you like look for like potential in projects, or do you just care about TA?
It's a mixture of a lot of things, It depends like how much risk I want to put onto something. So mainly I personally like just pure technical analysis. Obviously, like let's say if there's a coin that's coming out and it's within like, let's say the RWA niche, which is real world asset. And that's like the new trend for the cycle with crypto and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm gonna, dabble into it, look at the founders, look at the market cap, how much supply are they holding, where is it like getting stored in, and just like a bunch of basic like fundamental analysis as if you're like looking at a stock. And then, I'd place my bid on it and whatever. But mainly I'm more technical analysis. I keep up with the news, and I heavily look at just the economy as a whole, like how futures is doing, how the dollar is doing and stuff like that, because that affects how crypto moves as well too. So news and technical analysis are my big thing when it comes with crypto.
Right. So speaking of news, dude, how much you've been following with Trump and Elon? Dude, that thing was just wild.
Yeah, that was insane. It was funny because I was trading that day,
right,
and then I just saw the market just tank heavily, and I'm like, what the heck just happened? Because news already passed. It was like 11 o'clock, and news already came out at 10. So I'm like, what could have this man said to like cause the market to do this? And then I open up Twitter, and then I just see Elon trending, and he's saying he's on the Epstein files and all of this stuff, and they're just going at it.
Dude, just straight drama on Twitter. And like you would like it would only happen to like the crypto market where it gets affected that heavily.
Yeah, because everyone's bet is on Trump.
Right. So. Well, dude, but like that, you're getting two forces here. Everyone's bet is on Trump and Elon too. Like, I mean, compared to like last bull run, it was pretty much bet on to what Elon was doing. and
Yeah.
how he was integrating crypto to his companies. And like
Yeah.
because of that shift now, where it is based on Elon, based on Trump, and they have like that argument going, it's just so funny on how that like the market sort of just didn't know how to react in a way where it was just like
Yeah.
forced to fall, like no matter what, but like
Hmm.
it not like they didn't know how much. Because especially how Trump was handling it too, like it didn't seem like he was like petty about it, because it was obvious
Hmm.
that Elon was super petty, like on
Yeah.
how it was going on. I feel like they were both wrong on both of the issues.
Yeah.
But like it was just a crazy reaction. It's like
Mhm.
in that sort of sense, like what so what'd you do on that day trading? Like what would you end up like reconfiguring? Would you look at like did you end up making money, losing money?
If I'm correct, I think was it on a Thursday or a Friday? I don't remember what specific day they were arguing, but
Like a Thursday, I believe.
it was a Thursday. I lost a little bit of money, but that day it wasn't purely off of news. It was just like a mistake that I made. But obviously, I was like, I'm a like one and done, maybe like two trades in a day. I don't like to force too many. I'm more
Right.
quality over quantity. Um, but yeah, I just didn't expect that, to be honest. But for instance, if I was looking back on it, the next day I knew to like look for longs or anything like that because the market tanked by like 500 points for like Nasdaq
Right.
especially, and the same thing with Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin dropped to 100K or 101, and then look at it, it made a V-shaped recovery. So I knew like I had levels marked out to where I was expecting reactions, and it exactly just played out perfectly.
Well, it's moments like these where it's like, especially for new crypto traders coming in, where
Mhm.
they think they should just be selling because the market's tanking and failing
Yeah,
out. And this is what really shows like that hold. I mean, yeah, it's only a day. It's really about the macro side, about how much you hold into the market.
yeah,
And it's like a good friend of mine about who trades a lot. So it's always about time in the market. When you see
hmm,
all this is completely normal, it's volatile. When you go into the
yeah,
space, you know how bad it is.
yeah.
So let's like moving into like overall now macro side, like what do you think about the current state of the market and where it's heading?
Mhm. So me personally, I think we're like it's price action has been very hard to read, especially since Trump got into office. Just based off like my quarterly theory model, quarter three should be good. You know, especially with every single crypto cycle. Towards the end of quarter three, beginning of quarter four is when things start to like ramp up and you make a lot of money. Um, and right now, we're in the last month for quarter two. So I think with Bitcoin, we're probably gonna be within the range of like 103K to like maybe 108K, just bouncing within that range. But I wouldn't be surprised if we just like tanked pretty hard and we had like another, you know, 100 billion or 200 billion like liquidation in a day, like how we were seeing towards the beginning of the year. Um, and see Bitcoin hit like 93K. But it wouldn't be too bad for that to happen because when anything goes up, it needs to come down. That would be like an ideal bullish scenario for me, for it tanking at that level, reacting nicely, and then going for a new all-time high. But right now, it's having a lot of strength, especially since like indices um, have been performing like Nasdaq and SPY, like they look like they're ready to make a new all time high as like the months go on.
So
So
what's the confirmed sentiment why there's more positive feeling in the market where there could be growth later on in Q3? Because like I mean the tariffs are not like the idea of the tariffs in Q1 Q2 was where it's like really the shakeup of the market. So what makes it moving forward a bit more stronger, a bit stronger?
well, the whole point of the tariffs is basically for just us to create whatever we were like importing or getting from like China or anything else. Is just for us to create it here just so we have more jobs, and as we have more jobs, it just as a whole the economy just like increases and stuff like that. So I mean, even just looking at the world like economically, quarter three and quarter four is when things start to like ramp up and just more money is starting to get like pushed into the market, you know, as like school starting up, Christmas, like businesses getting a lot more busier, like that's the busiest season, and just little basic stuff like that. Um, I feel like looking at the tariffs right now, I would like to wait for like a whole year to go by, because the thing with tariffs is like we're always getting news with Trump saying he's pausing the tariffs. Like right now they're paused. So, you know, until it's not paused, then we start to see like the true effect of it, then we'll have to see, because when they were announced the market tanked. So just going back on like the history and the past of him announcing tariffs, maybe once they're back and activated and ready to go, it could tank the market a little bit. But like I said, we just have to give it time. Can't really predict too much about it. I like to be more reactive on it.
It's also it's funny how these markets, the patterns predicted in a way. I
Mm-hmm.
know it's a mix between whatever's going on in the news and like the
Mm-hmm.
TA. But like at one point, like you just staring at the charts, do you just think that like, bro, like how did the pattern predict this?
Yeah, that it sometimes, yeah, when like my model plays out extremely perfectly, I sometimes get in like disbelief a little bit. It's like, how did this even work? But
Right.
that's the whole point of you creating your model, you know? It's for it to play out. Obviously, when it doesn't play out, it's still part of your model, because if your model's at 85% win rate, the 15% of you losing it, that has to play out. So it proves that your model's also working. There's never a model out there that's 100% guaranteed.
For
So
sure.
yeah.
No, that's awesome. So what are you eyeing in the market at the moment? Like what's one of your favorites?
Um right now, my only thing that's on my mind, let me open up Jupiter.
Wait, let's
I'm gonna
do you want to
share
pull up the
this.
chart?
Yeah, can you see it?
Let's see it.
Can you see it on my end or?
Yep.
Yeah, right now Jupiter for me, I like it a lot. I'm in a little spot trade for it. I'm gonna DCA more into these lows, so my average entry is a bit lower. But me, I'm pretty bullish on Solana. You know, I'd expect it to hit around like, you know, previous all-time highs, or maybe like up to $400, and Jupiter should follow with it, because Jupiter or even like Radium are big indicators when Solana is going to get pushed, since they're like aggregators and they add liquidity into the market for Solana's like ecosystem and stuff like that. And Jupiter is also like one of the biggest aggregators as well too, consistently just having trading volume and fees going on and all this stuff. So Jupiter is one thing that I'm eyeing that's really nice, and you could get. I'm looking for a nice return on it, you know, for it to hit all time highs again, or even go back to like dollar 50 cents from these levels. It's like a nice 3x, you know. Um, Sui is also another one which is super nice. This is old right here.
Dude, I was looking at that coin since I was around like August and August
Yeah,
September. And I was like debating whether to go into it or not. Like they're calling themselves the next Solana killer. They didn't have time in the
yeah,
market, so I just wasn't sure. And then overnight just blew up, and I'm just like, bro, come on. Like I can't.
yeah,
But they're doing great things though. I've been to a bunch of their events. Their tech is amazing. I looked into it more a lot after, and they have a
yeah.
really growing ecosystem.
Yeah, they do have a very strong ecosystem. Their network is super good as well too. Like I wouldn't be surprised if we see this like once altcoins start to pick up and really push. I wouldn't be surprised to see Sui like at $6 or maybe max $10. But yeah, this is another coin that I'm eyeing that's super nice, that I would like to spot bid and stuff like that. But mainly it's just Jupiter, Solana, and then you know the regular BTC and ETH.
Would you
Yeah.
consider yourself a leverage trader as well?
Yeah, I always leverage.
So walk me through that process. Like, what do you look into? How do you set up your stop losses, your liquidation methods? Like,
Yeah.
how does that work?
So, for instance, let's say for like Bitcoin, right? If we look here on the 1 hour, so like on the 1 hour, let's say I were to take a long here, right? So I see Bitcoin on the lower time frame. Let's say we sweep out liquidity around this range, which is like 104.9. We swept liquidity, and then I start to see like bullish order flow, where candles are starting to respect previous bearish candles. We have like other indicators that are also like triggering as well too, and other stuff like that. So the way I'd get in if I were to leverage with Bitcoin, I minimum leverage is 100x. So I'll get in after I get confirmation that we're bullish and I'm expecting price to go up. And then usually the way I'd place my stop loss would be like right below the previous low or like below another like demand zone. Because if price breaks the previous low or it breaks below like a specific demand zone, then I know like the trade is invalid because it should continue to push up. It shouldn't go back down to where it took out liquidity to push price back up again. So that's usually how I set up my stop loss, and especially with liquidations or leverage trading. Sometimes my stop loss would just be my liquidation price, or I'd have it like 50% um away from like the liquidation price pretty much. Like I'll risk 50% of like what I'm putting down. But like I said, it all depends on like how much profit like if I'm looking to quickly scalp, usually I'll have like a tighter stop loss and I'm a bit more aggressive with like taking profits and putting my stop loss to break even and a bunch of stuff like that. But if I'm planning to like hold something out a little bit longer and I know it's going to take a bit longer to play out, then that's what I'll just leave my stop loss at my liquidation price, and that's it.
Makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Like, do you play around with ETH at all? Like, what are you top three that you go with all the time to trade?
Bitcoin, ETH, and then the only times I usually would like to trade altcoins is when I'm getting information from Bitcoin and ETH, because if Bitcoin and ETH are bearish, then obviously altcoins are gonna follow. They're like the Bitcoin is majority of the dominance in the total crypto market cap. So if Bitcoin is tanking and everything is gonna follow with it, especially if Bitcoin makes like a 1% move to the downside, altcoins move like 3-4%. So you going in with some alts and putting 30 to 50x leverage, and you catch like a 3 to 4% move on an altcoin is really nice money. So
Right.
that's my main thing. If I'm gonna trade altcoins, I look at ETH and Bitcoin and I see what they're telling me, if it's bearish, if they're looking bullish, and then from that point on, that's where I'll trade altcoins. The way I'll specifically trade Bitcoin or ETH would be if there's like a divergence between them. So like for instance, right here. So this day when Trump and Elon were beefing, had a big tank in the market. And then on Bitcoin, let me open this up right here just so you could see. Bitcoin created what's it called? A lower low, and then ETH created a higher low. So during this day, ETH was leading and ETH was pushing super hard. So that day when, like I told you, the next day after, I was looking for longs, because since when you have a big red candles going down, like big bearish candles going down, there's always a little relief pump to follow right after, rather than like smaller bearish candles going down. That's usually a lot worse. When you
Right.
just have like a big candle just dropping down, that's usually a lot better, because the market makers and just the market itself takes all the liquidity that it needs for it to like make the actual move that it wants to do. So I looked for longs the next day, and it exactly played out. But that's also like experience with the market and time in the market, like I've seen this happen multiple times. Obviously when Bitcoin tanked to like 78K, 74K, whatever it was, the Sunday it was tanking hard, and then Monday it still continued, and there wasn't like too many longs to like go off of. But yeah, it's like I said, it's time in the market is very important. I've seen this happen multiple times. So based off of probability and past situations, that's usually what happens. So I'm gonna take the bet on something that usually happens. That has like a little probability to play off of.
So as far as an altcoin though, like
Mhm.
Bitcoin and ETH are like those two big headers on how the
Yeah.
market flows. But like, is there a reputable altcoin that you look into where it could go up to that top three, where that they control the market a little bit?
Mia just have to be Soul,
So,
to be honest. Yeah.
so also on the sense for like I'm interested in XRP. So what can you tell me about the XRP chart that like
Okay.
shows some sort of positive, like bullish or bearish scenario?
Let's see. So if we're looking at XRP, we had the trend line liquidity, and then right here on the daily, we inverse this daily bearish fair value gap. Usually when you inverse a fair value gap, it turns in it basically tells you that order flow is changing. So
Right.
we're pushing bullish. And obviously when the day happened, what's it called? XRP just pushed up a nice like almost 15%. But obviously there's other resistance on the chart that caused it to go down. And it also depends on Bitcoin and ETH. Like if ETH is weak and stuff like that, altcoins are going to be weak as well too. But my main thing with XRP, why I see it like pushing a lot higher, is the CRT low. So the CRT low, if I'm correct, was from the weekly. So what CRT is just candle range theory. So if I'm correct, no, I think it's on the monthly. Yeah. So on the monthly, this was in March. So in March, we tanked super hard. Bitcoin, like everything was just slow with crypto. And then the next month, we swept out the previous monthly low, but the candle body didn't close below the low. So that's when the CRT model starts to play out. As long as the body doesn't close below the low or the high, depending if you're longing or shorting,
Right.
then the model's playing out. And this is exactly what's playing out here. Is we swept the previous monthly low, we have a candle body closure above it, and price has just been pushing up. Like next month we were bullish, the next month we created a doji candle, was neutral, still bullish, and then the next month, which is this month, we're pushing bullish for XRP. So just going off just this basic model, XRP should be reaching and go and touching $3 again based off this model, because there's no reason for right now for it to go lower, especially when everything is slowly creeping up as well too. So yeah,
No,
especially. Mhm.
so no, I'm all that looks good. I just always love to get a general idea on how people look at XRP on a TA side, because for me, I just focus a lot more on like
The
the
fundamental side, you'd say, like
well,
the
more on
technology and
news,
stuff.
dude. I like. I mean,
Mhm.
technology. I love. Like, I always
Mhm.
look at different tech and like Web3, and I always like looking into it. But
Mhm.
it's also the news around it, the hype, the people that are supporting it. Like, I really look into the sentiment a lot more.
Mhm.
I was talking with one startup the other day where they were wanting to get more into creating like a social factor score. Where some like market aggregators already have that, where they represent a market cap through social. But like that's the numbers I like kind of I like to look into, because the TA side makes sense, but it really makes sense through the volume that's the volume and the demand zones that show up in a coin's chart. But like, and I do have some fundamental basics I like looking into. Like if I were to go chart it, I was like using the Fibonacci sequence. I use it mostly on the macro side, and have these different indicators. But generally, it's more on what's in the news, and I like to hit up my trading friends to see what they think of the TA side.
Yeah, but the thing is like, if a coin looks bullish and then like news came out and that also pushed price, the chart said it before. Like it's usually always like that. You know, that's the same thing with like even you trading NASDAQ or SPY. News basically helps push price a lot faster to what it was like meant to be pushed to. So yeah. So
that makes sense. So to like kind of put a cap on it, what's your overall prediction? Like, when do you think we might see a top?
A top?
Yeah.
So this this is very hard. If we're going back on like previous cycles, just for everyone to like, just for people to be safe,
Right.
I'd say just like around October, maybe like, I don't know, within like the August and October range, you know, like timing the top is hard and impossible.
Right.
Obviously, there's people who have timed it, but that's purely off of luck. Because if they're good at it, they time every single cycle top and bottom. But it's just like they've probably done it once in the 4 or 5 cycles that we've had with crypto. It's a lot of it comes with luck with timing the top or bottom. But if you look at specific things that happen during when we're topping, for instance, like Coinbase, if Coinbase starts to be ranked as top 50 on the App Store, like globally, that's another indication of like, okay, we should maybe start looking at some of your bags and, you know, securing some profits. If you're just doing basic like technical analysis, if you see that Bitcoin is like, I don't know, making a specific pattern, like a double top or a triple top, like those are like bearish indicators or stuff like that. But yeah, me personally, if I were to, let's say, like time the top, I'd just be looking around the range of like August to October. But a lot of things could change. Like I would like to say the top would be like early 2026, like January, you know. But
I'm everyone's going into around like late 2025, early 2026.
but that's also the thing that you have to watch out for. Everyone is thinking that
exactly.
That's when it's bad, you know, like when everyone is like, oh, I'm expecting Bitcoin to be 130K, 140K. It's like, if everyone is predicting that and everyone thinks that's going to happen, like usually that's not the best thing, because everyone is expecting. If everyone's is expecting it, then like how are like the head honchos going to make money and other stuff like that, you know?
No, that's true. It's true. It's just,
So
like you don't go where everyone's going. So it's like,
yeah,
you
yeah.
want to
So
be in your own.
yeah, I'd say for sure, just like every single cycle around August, October time would be nice to sell. If anyone else has like other confluences or anything new comes out, maybe you could like secure a lot of your profit and then just leave some runners towards the end of the year, and
Right.
then whatever. That's, I would say, would be the safest way to do it. Just be a lot more aggressive with securing profits, because we've seen altcoins, you know, go down 10% within a day. Like that's very normal with crypto, you know, but
Right.
it's also just as normal for it to pump up 30-40% in 24 hours as well too. So yeah, that would be my strategy if I were giving it out to people, and a lot of people had big bags and a bunch of altcoins. Just sell a bit of it around August, October, that range. And then if you want to just squeeze a bit more profit or play with your luck a little, just leave like a runner, like 10% of your bag, maybe 20 if you're being a little bit more risky until the end of the year. And then whatever plays out, plays out. At least you secured 80% of it near the top. You don't have to time the top. You don't have to do that. So yeah, that's something I'd give out to everyone for sure.
Of course. Also want to mention, do your own research, NFA, not financial advice, but always feel free to take this as a grain of salt, as like information, just like advice, and not advice, but like an idea on like what we think the market works, how the market works. So, but yeah, so xutada, thanks for hopping on. Really appreciate your time. You gave us like really good insight, and love to hear more from you later on.
100%. I'll be happy to keep on sharing and teaching everyone.
Of course, of course. Well, enjoy, guys. Have a good one and have fun.
Peace, peace.
Peace.